Hi everyone, welcome to the benchmarking tool contributors sync. Today is February 20th and the meeting is being recorded. So the agenda is here. Feel free to add yourself as an attendee. And we can get started with some of the follow-ups from last week, and I see a couple of new topics as well. Let's go through them too. So the first one is the follow-up on adding the orchestration that Shen created. Yeah, I think this one, we discussed last time about what the next steps are. So Chen created an issue for this. Mainly the proposal is to add a Python-based Kubernetes orchestration library, which will deploy the model server, collocate the benchmarking tool, and run it. So if you're someone who wants to work entirely in Python and make it simpler to just deploy everything and run it, I think this would be a good way to do it. I think the main thing that we wanted to finalize are how flexible our standard should the approach be, how much customization should we support, and also like how we add the library itself, right? Because this is one level above the benchmarking tool itself. So should it be part of the core inference perf library, or should it be another orchestrative library outside of it, which will orchestrate the deployment of the inference perf tool as well as model servers? Yeah, so if you have thoughts, feel free to chime in. I also shared it in the broader workgroup serving sync yesterday. So people seem to be okay with the idea in general. We just need to figure out some of the details on what works best, and then we should be able to send any code changes. Yeah, so
I think I agree with your comment of utilizing something like serving catalog for this. That makes sense to me.
Yeah, mainly like this works, but this will have its limitations, right? And also, if someone wants to benchmark against a setup that they already have, people will set up their model servers and workloads in a lot of different ways. So I don't think we want to reinvent that and find like a general orchestration tool. Yeah, we can keep this kind of a standard minimal one if someone wants to just use Python to kick everything off. This works. Maybe more like a development, quick testing kind of a benchmark. If you're testing against your real production workload or something like that, then you would probably be using something else, right?
Yep.
Okay, and also if you have any thoughts on the library structure or where we should put it, feel free to chime in as well. So next steps, someone from FMPerf side, I don't see Chen, but I see Yue. Do you have context on this, on if someone is going to take this forward?
You mean like how we want to change the example codes that from the FMPerf to move forward?
Yeah, mainly like next step I would say is either start creating a PR for the API itself, like how we want to configure the model server and things like that, or like put together like a small proposal which shows where the library will live, how it will interact, what the API is, and then create a PR to start sending out code.
Yeah, I think probably I can word Chen, like we can have some like brief description about based on you are suggesting over here, how we want to transplant the model, I mean the code example from the FMPerf to here.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, sounds good. Any other questions on this topic before we move on?
So, question. So, until something we finalize on this part, if you want to build, for now, should we use some Docker Compose or something like that? Locally set up model servers. Is that the plan?
Yeah. So model server. Right now, the expectation is you would deploy it using something else, right? Whether using serving catalog and getting the YAML to run your deployment, or like any of the other things out there, right? For example, if you're using multi-host, you would be running your deployment using leader worker set. Yeah, so it can be deployed any which way you want, as long as there is an endpoint that is accessible. We should be able to um, call it through our inference perf library itself. One thing we want to add for this is once we get the library to a working point where we can actually send requests to real model server, it could be good to add some steps on how to package it as a container and run it, right? Have some Docker file with some dependencies and yeah, that you can take and deploy on your cluster.
Yep, makes sense.
Okay, so we can move on to the next one. I think this issue was created from some of the folks working on the gateway extension. So they have been looking at some performance testing tools. I think someone there is using LLM Perf today, and some other folks are using the Google Latency Profile tool. So they have some requirements here, I believe. Yeah, so I think mainly they're asking about how can we consolidate this. I think inference perf, one of the goals is to consolidate and standardize inference benchmarking within the Kubernetes community, right? So I think we can take requests from the gateway extension team here and then see how we can add that. From what I understand, they have been mainly working with VLLM. So once we have the basic VLLM setup, we should be able to extend this for some of their use cases. Yeah, I can take some time to respond. Anyone has any questions or comments on this? How we should go about yeah, adding in gateway and other asks. Okay, yeah. Feel free to take a look at that issue and what they have on the gateway side. And if you have any anything concrete, yeah, feel free to leave them there. You can turn it into a feature request and then take that up. Cool. So I see Hugging Face data set item here. Yeah, I think we need to add some data sets as a next step.
Yeah. So I created 2 or 3 issues on the project. So this is one of the key requirements to work with one of these existing data sets and use that for the load generation. Yeah, if anyone's interested, please comment on the ticket and we can work on this.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that makes sense to me. And starting with ShareGPT and OpenArca seems like a good one to go with.
Yeah.
Yeah. If anyone is planning to take that up, feel free to leave a note on the issue and let others know which data set you're going to add. I remember Vivek mentioned he was interested in adding some data set support too. So I think, yeah, each person can work on different data set support in parallel.
Yeah, so one of the things we could do is we could have this sort of generic. So we can select any data sets that matches a certain specification. And this particular data gen could pull from Hugging Face and set up the data set as part of the load gen process.
Yeah, agree. I think we need like data set, especially I think someone brought up in the workgroup serving meeting yesterday too. It is important to cover different use cases, right? So we need like one generic way to like plug in a different data set as needed, and then use that to drive the benchmark itself.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah. If you have any data set suggestions or things that has worked well for your use case before, let us know. We can add that. I think Jene Perf has a synthetic data set
Yes,
generator too.
we use the Shakespeare sonnets to generate data set from for our synthetic data set generation. I had a topic that I was going to add once all these topics are done. I don't have write access to this talk.
Okay. I think if you can join the workgroup serving a group or the mailing list, I think you should be able to edit it.
So,
Yeah, for now, I think I can put in the notes. Since, yeah.
So our use case has been to generate specific ISL, OSL, and we use the Sonnet data set. I'm not sure how is it possible using ShareGPT to generate a specific length ISL, OSL for specific use cases like summarization, chat, and all those use cases.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be a separate data gen component. So one use case is, okay, use a specific data set from a repository like Hugging Face. And the another one is synthetic based on given a specific token length. Yeah.
Yeah, one way we have been using ShareGPT today is to instead of have like exact input and output length specified, we kind of set like a max input and output length, right? And then let the ShareGPT distribution be the actual request that we send to keep it kind of mixed and not have proper fixed size requests to see how that works. it still might not entirely be closer to like a real-time chat use case. Probably where you might need, like ChatGPT is okay, but like keeping track of like older parts in the conversation and how that feeds into the input and all that is still not as great. But yeah, the plan or the idea there is to kind of say, okay, this will mimic a more real varied use case instead of going with fixed length. I think you are muted, Ganesh.
About now, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, you brought up a very good point about so there are, I think, two different features here. One is user provided data set. So you can, so there is something new will come up tomorrow, right? A new data set. So I think input to the load generator where you can specify any type of data set in a structured format. That would be a good input to the tool. The other is the multi-turn use case that requires the fundamental change to the load generator or tester in itself. In this case, GenAI-Perf, which we are working towards, right? So GenAI-Perf today has input file which takes in a JSON line format with any data set that you specify. It will take that and will randomly send it over to the endpoint and test. The multi-turn chat use case is a different use case where the next request requires the output from the server or the response pattern as part of the payload. So that is a little bit involved. We have almost done it. This should be out in a week or two as part of GenAI.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah,
we have been looking at how to simulate that in the benchmark as well. Yeah, I think once we have the basic data set support, if you're interested in contributing some of that, I think that would be great. Sounds good. Can move on to the VLM model client.
This was one of the issues that you created, Ashok, to set up a model client for VLLM and test it end to end. Now that we have the initial repository structure ready, I was thinking I could put some work on this.
Yeah, I think that that makes sense to me. Feel free to get started on this. Started something simple along this lines a little while back. I haven't had time to get it in, so I would say, if we can send that out, that would be great.
Yeah, please post any comments on the ticket if you have ideas, thoughts. I'm sure others also have ideas on this, so let me know.
Yeah, makes sense. Once we had like one model server client with like some with the right API format and everything, I think we should be able to replicate it quickly to add like Triton, TensorRT LLM, or like TGI after VLLM. So.
Yep, makes sense.
Cool. Thanks for taking that up. And Ganesh, you mentioned you had a topic.
Yeah, the comparison table for those different evaluation of existing tools on your landing page, right? I wanted to make some updates. I think there have been a bunch of changes to GenAI-Perf after that. So wanted to see if is it okay to put a PR for that.
Yeah, I would say feel free to open a PR to update it. I think we have it checked in here as a part of our initial proposal or design. So yeah, feel free to send an update to that.
I'll send an update hopefully by end of today for that.
Sounds good. Yeah, we're just doing some initial look and then add other things we could find. But yeah, please update it.
One more question about the load generator or benchmarking tool. Are we, or is this working group, has it fixed any endpoint API specification like GenAI does for OpenAI API? Is there a set of limited API schema that you are planning to support, or is it going to be a generic schema?
Yeah, I think we discussed it a couple of weeks back, I think. So the where we landed on was start with like OpenAI API format and see. I think at this point, most of the model servers support it. So we should be able to use that to send requests to different model servers. But we can also add, since like that will be like the general client implementation, and then each model server will have their own intricacies that you can add when you send the request itself. So in that place, we can also like get the OpenAI spec and then make some changes to how your API might be different, and then send requests that way too. So yeah, the goal is to have like one format which is OpenAI API format, and then within the client itself have some customizability if you want to use a different endpoint or send requests using like a different payload.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Cool. Okay, I think those are all the topics we had. Any last minute topics or questions from anyone? I see David, you're here as well. I don't know what you're using currently with Kserve. Are you looking at inference perf eventually be the thing that you can use for some other benchmarking needs there too?
I mean, we're keeping an eye on it. Right now, we are working. We use our own internal tool still for most of our testing, LLM load test, and since the recent acquisition of NeuralMag, they have some other tooling. So we're kind of collaborating and putting together the different tools that we have now.
Okay.
Yeah, so the tool from NeuralMagic is Guide LLM. I don't think it came up in the early stages of this project for inference perf, but one thing I had thought of was if it could be integrated as like a load generator at some point into inference perf.
Okay, makes sense. Is that one open source as well, the Automagic one?
Yeah, it's completely open source. I'll put the link to Guide LLM in the chat.
Okay, yeah. Feel free to put a link here.
Yeah, I've seen the Guide LLM before, the code as well. I think it's the load generation aspect is very similar to what we have landed up here. So it's something to keep our eye on.
Yeah, in terms of like RPS and then being able to do like a distribution of traffic to simulate real world requests, that kind of thing. It's definitely similar to what's been talked about in the working group.
Yep.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, and thanks for sharing that.
There was one more load generation schema which we recently worked on, was trace-based routing. So let's say a customer has traces of their load with the actual payload. To simulate that and to replicate any issues that might happen, that is also supported in GenAI today. So would be good addition here.
So you're talking about like logging customer payload and then replaying it.
Yes.
Using the tool. Okay.
This will enable you to shape the load in the way you want, right? You can, with a trace-based routing, you can shape the load. You can create a small load shaper the way you want to shape the load and then send it over to the payload or send it over to the load generator.
Agree. Yeah, this would be very valuable.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, this is useful. You should probably create GitHub issues for these requests.
Agree. And Ganesh, are you using like Triton's tracing or logs for this?
No, so that's what I talked about, right? That the table that you showed shows that GenAI is highly coupled with Triton, which is not the case. It is completely independent of Triton. It is OpenAI and KSer API compatible. Any endpoint that supports that API, GenAI is supporting out of the box. It doesn't need Triton or anything under the hood. And it just needs a pip install command if you're using it on Ubuntu 24.04 OS.
Okay, makes sense. Cool. Yeah, we are over time, but thanks everyone for attending the meeting and for all the contributions. We'll see you all next time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.